What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here for another edition of the weekly sports card market update. We have a absolute doozy of a market update or wrap up, news catch up, whatever you want to call it, this week. The Topps Super Fractor bounty is absolutely wild times. We have that to dig into because there is just an absolutely crazy story coming out of that. Not surprised by it at all, but we'll get into the details of that here in a couple of minutes. But it has been a wild week, mostly centered around that story. I'm sure everyone's probably sick of hearing about it by now, but we'll dig back into it for one final time, hopefully, and put the nail in that coffin. Recording a little bit earlier than normal on Saturday, so if anything super crazy happens, it has been wild times around the household today. First up, before we fully dive in, a little ComC update. Our friends and sponsor of the channel and sponsor of this video, ComC, launched another event, NBA tip-off promotion. 30% off select and elite basketball submissions until the end of October. They are going to do an NBA auction event and free elite submissions if your card sells for over $100. You can find all the details on the official blog. That's right, folks. The NBA is creeping back up on us, and we had a massive trade this week with the Dame Milwaukee maneuver. We'll talk more about that towards the end of the episode, but just wild times in the NBA streets with a massive deal coming out and ComC running a great promotion to go along with the start of the NBA season. In addition to that, the TCG promotion is still running as well. 30% off any TCG submissions, select and elite until the end of October. I already took advantage of that. My ComC package that I sent in of about 100 and some cards with a little bit of Lorcana, a little bit of Marvel, a little bit of sports cards has actually already started uploading. 3 cards from Sapphire got uploaded the other day, and I already have those listed for sale. I get a lot of questions in the comments on the ComC stuff about like what sorts of stuff do you send in, what do you sell? I do plan on doing a video on that. I know I've mentioned this in the past. But I am planning on doing that, not this upcoming week, but I believe the following week, I'm going to do something along those lines. So go check out our friends over at ComC.com. Before we get, really, the biggest, and not necessarily for me, but for a lot of people, the biggest news of the week. Big Topps Now fan around here, as we all know. We've talked about it before in the past. They dropped a Topps Now Topanga card. That's right. And the internet lost its mind. This card sold out very, very quickly. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you probably didn't grow up in the 90s and early 2000s. Boy Meets World, this was the heartthrob of many. For me, and we got into an interesting debate actually about a month ago or so on this. I personally, I understand the love for Topanga. Kelly Kapowski for life. I'm a little bit older. I'm 43. I skew more towards the Kelly Kapowski side of things than actually I am 42. That's when you know you're old, when you don't actually know how old you are. I am 42, but I grew up in the Saved by the Bell era. So for me, my first on-screen girlfriend was Kelly Kapowski. But I understand if you were a little bit older, you came up under Team Topanga. But she had a Topps Now card come out. There's a non-autoed version and an auto version of this. The auto version sold out very quickly. This came out over the weekend. It's already gone. It's too late to even buy the non-autoed version as well because she threw out the first pitch at a Phillies game. So just thought that was fun. I actually did buy a Topps Now card this weekend. They put this out. I just thought it was really cool. This was like $70, I think. I don't know, 60, $70. I don't remember. Terry Frankone, longtime manager of the Indians, retired. This was his final home game. And they put a Topps Now card out for it. And this is, cards like this, the Topanga card, whatever, I don't care what this is going to be worth in 5-10 years. I just think it's a really cool card. Terry Francona has been absolutely fantastic for the Indians/Guardians during his time here. He really brought that team back to a level of relevance that it had not seen for some time, and he kind of really ushered things in and kind of leveled them up and gave them a different gravitas as a franchise. I think having him here, the fans, the media, everybody absolutely loved him during his time. It will be sad to see him go. Be curious to see who they bring in to replace him. But when I saw this pop up, I had to snag it immediately. It's a great photo. His signature on card auto commemorating the moment. These were up, I think I bought it as soon as they went up. I got the email, immediately went to the site and bought it, and I immediately DM'd it to a bunch of people that I know would be 100% wanting this card, and everyone DM'd me back and said that they missed it. So I don't know. It was probably up for maybe about 20 minutes. It didn't sell out as fast as some of the other stuff. They also put up, I didn't pull the images, but they pulled a bunch of stuff for Acuna's 4070, which we'll talk about in a little bit as well. So fun stuff out of Topps Now this week. Once again, is it an investable product? No, I don't necessarily think so. In most cases, some of the relics and the autos are kind of cool, but they can be very expensive. There was a $2,000 Acuna booklet that came up this week that had batting gloves from the game. But as a collector, pay attention to it, man. They really do a nice job on some of this Topps Now stuff. So speaking of Topps, the gift that keeps on giving if you're a content creator, the 101 Superfractor debacle. So this came out Friday night, rather. Last night for me at time of recording. I did a video on it that went up early Saturday morning with their solution to this. Just a couple little follow-up things. I don't really want to deep dive down into this, but I've seen a lot of people saying, it's not fair that they're doing the first person, or there should have been a better way to do this. I don't know what the right answer is for that. And people were complaining about the limited time nature of this. I mean, it's good for 6 months. They're not going to have something like this run forever. Could they have made it a little bit longer? Sure. Kind of what I said yesterday, is this a perfect solution? No. Is it a pretty good solution? I do think so. I had some comments that I am in the pockets of big Fanatics on the video yesterday. Those always crack me up. If I was really that concerned about what Fanatics thinks about my content in regards to, playing it safe, I wouldn't tag Michael Rubin and Topps in tweets saying, you guys need to fix this as soon as possible. And I wouldn't have even made the video in the first place earlier in the week when this first cropped up, when there was like 2 or 3 of them, to call them out and say, hey, you guys need to do something. So if I really wanted to stay off the radar from a negative press standpoint, I just wouldn't cover it, period. So I don't really know. Love the comment section sometimes. But this came out, like I said, most people seem to be pretty okay with it. There is obviously some people that don't agree with it or don't like the way that it's going. There's been this discourse around, and I'll pull up the page here, here's the individual prices for stuff. This discourse around, they're setting the comps for this stuff now. And I just don't fundamentally see it that way. Like, once someone cashes these in, that's it. It's like a one-time thing. If someone, this Javier Rivias for 5K, it's not a 5K comp on that card once this first one gets cashed in. Yes, if the bounty's unclaimed, then yeah, it's a 5K card, because you could literally call Topps and say, give me $5,000, and they'll say, sure. But once that gets cashed in, that's not the comp now. I haven't really understood that take from a lot of people. Will it drive wax sales? I have no idea. The boxes are still up on Fanatics website. I believe they're still in stock on Fanatics as of recording. So it's not like these things are hard to track down at reasonable prices. We'll see if things bounce up or not. I really don't know. I guess from a short term, maybe. I don't know. But you're only talking about 90 some cards. It just seems like a stretch. And I don't think the tinfoil, or I shouldn't say the tinfoil hat brigade, a portion of the tinfoil hat brigade wants to mount up and say that this was a conspiracy and this was staged from the beginning. Jeff made a comment on my video yesterday saying, Fanatics and Topps is a massive multi-million, if not billion-dollar company, depending on which entity you're looking at. Do we really think these guys are sitting around in a boardroom saying, hey, let's take this massive negative press hit to then come out looking like heroes to duplicate all these 101s? I mean, was it an idiotic mistake for them to get in there? Yeah, 100%. But do I think it was on purpose? I just don't. I really don't. I don't think people are sitting around in a boardroom coming up with these cockamamie schemes to this level and saying, let's do this. First off, someone in upper management would be like, you're crazy. There's zero chance we are letting something like that slide. let alone even getting on a whiteboard. I just don't think a company of this size is that desperate to move product. It's Bowman. It's a product that is going to sell. It's not like it's Bowman Chrome University's best white sparkle fractor, taco frozen fractors that they're trying to move out the door. It's 2023 Bowman Chrome. It's one of the most popular products that comes out every single year. I don't think they need to do much to juice the sales of that. I could be wrong. We'll see. That's just my general take on it. If that means I'm in the pocket of big Fanatics, then I'm in the pocket of big Fanatics. However, there's one thing that we need to talk about. A little developing situation here. A little fallout from this. And you kind of had a feeling this was going to happen. This story floating around Saturday afternoon. Rainier Arias Superfractor. Sold for, what did it sell for? $2,000 on the 27th of September, which was Wednesday night. Person has this up for auction for $1,500. Best offer enabled, or you can make offers on it. Guy puts an offer in at $2,000. In fact, here's the Facebook post. Purchased for $2,000, paid, shipped on the 28th. Topps announces the Superfractor buyback program on the 29th. The price, the bounty on this card, $25,000. That's a lot more than $2,000. Card is at the regional post office to go through eBay authenticity guaranteed in Sarasota, Florida. Seller does a package intercept on it. You can see it here. Here is the tracking. Arrived at Sarasota. Package intercepted. So the seller went not so fast, my friends, and intercepted the package to have it sent back to him. I'm not sure how many people are aware of this package intercept. It has come in handy in the past if you accidentally misship something. I've done that before, where I sent the wrong card to the wrong person and catch it after it's already in the mail. You have to pay a small fee for it, but you get the item rerouted back to you. So this person, talks about, what can we do about this? It's his legal property. Once it's been paid for, funds cleared, left the seller's hands. He says he's more than willing to split the proceeds with the buyer or the seller. The seller has been non-responsive. And now here we sit. A $2,000 card on Wednesday night turned into a $25,000 card on Friday night. And seller's remorse went and intercepted the package. So we're in another one of those. We did that garage sale video earlier in the week about the Pokemon boxes. What's the play here? If you sold this card for $2,000 and 2 days later Topps announces a $25,000 bounty on it, are you running to that post office as quickly as possible to fill out the package intercept form? Or are you just saying, oh my God, I hate myself? Like, what have I just done? Are you reaching out to the buyer and saying, hey, like, clearly this has changed? Is it all done once, you hit buy it now? And from the buyer perspective, who knows what they do or don't want to do, but, they do throw out. And I think what the buyer is offering here is reasonable. Hey, this has clearly changed since the time that I bought it. Let's go ahead and split the bounty down the middle. We'll just each take half and call it a W. Or are you going to go full greed monster? Now, the sellers ghosted this guy. Maybe something changes once he gets it back in his hand. I doubt it. I don't know. This guy would have all the buyer would have all the documentation on it. Is there any legal recourse here? I don't really know. I don't know auction law or eBay, if that's even a thing. Whatever is in that agreement between a buyer and seller, is that legally binding at that point that you could take someone to court? I imagine you probably can, because you could take someone to court for just about anything. If someone knows in the comments, feel free to drop it down below. Should eBay get involved here? Should Topps get involved here? If this guy goes to Topps and's like, listen, I bought this card. It was on its way to me, and this guy, duped it back. Like, is there a way that Topps could potentially put the kibosh on this, or go back to that seller of this card and say, like, hey, we understand there's a situation here. If you send us the card, we'll ship you $12K and the other guy $12K. I don't really know. I don't know what the right way to handle this all is. The buyer did nothing wrong. The seller is a member of the Unfortunate Timing Club. They didn't know that this was going to be coming, and they got kind of screwed by it. Absolutely. But I've never been to this degree where you sell something and then immediately, like 2 days later, it shoots up in value to that degree where it went up $22,000 or $23,000. But I've 100% sold a card that, was like a $200 card, and then something happens in the meantime and it jumps up to like a $300 or $400 card during the boom. That 100% happened to me. I know that it did. It happened to me on a Juan Soto pink, actually. One of the pinks that I sold, it went out, and while it was in transit, he got hot that weekend, and it jumped like $200 or $300 in price. Now, apples to oranges. I'm talking about a 10% shift in the price, 20% shift in the price of the card, not a Honda Civic shift in the price of the card. $23,000 is nothing to sniff at. So, interesting fallout from Topps' decision and mess up, and I really don't know what. To me, the best way to handle this is split the bounty between the two people. Now, is the seller going to be willing to do that? I don't know. Is the seller legally obligated to do that? I don't know. I don't know. The devil is in the details on this one, and I don't know what they are from a legal perspective if the buyer wanted to push it that direction. But I'm sure we will see and hear more of crazy stuff like this as this situation continues to develop with these 101s. But the greed monster out in full force. Some eBay news. I thought about doing a standalone video on this, but I feel like I've done this video 14 times, and we are news heavy in this video. According to Sports Card Investor, eBay is continuing to make more improvements on unpaid items and auto payments, increasing the price threshold for buy it now items that require immediate payment. Buyers now required to add payment method when making best offers. Similar change will be coming when you send offers out as a seller. And then stricter policies will be in play, including account suspension for those who fail to complete purchases. The other key thing here is they plan to launch similar changes for seller initiative counter offers and auctions. So once again, we are heading to a path of auto pay for auctions. This plays nicely in, and I did not pull this story because, quite frankly, I just have not had time to deep dive it. I don't know the full details on it. I don't even remember the names of the players involved, but there is a pretty big shill bidding controversy floating around this weekend from, once again, I don't even remember the names, so I'm not even going to throw any out there. But someone big on Instagram was caught shill bidding some auctions. It all went sideways. It's been a mess. The auto pay thing, I think, helps fix some of that. Is it going to be a complete catch-all? No. But I think it will make people think a little bit more if you have to have payment on file for all these things and dealing with, those charges sitting on a credit card. I just think it'll help a little bit, and I will take all the help I can get. Now, as I've said in a million videos on this topic, they need to figure out the whole situation with buying multiple items from one person and shipping. I'm sure that's something they could figure out. eBay seems like a pretty smart company. And they need to figure out spendable funds. eBay spendable funds are kind of a disaster because you can't use them in a lot of situations when auto pay is involved, which does not make any damn sense to me at all. So they need to figure those two things out. If they could do that, all for it. I understand a lot of people don't like the auto pay stuff, but the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And in this case, it is a much needed feature that needs to come. Next up, let's go ahead and dive into some charts and graphs finally, 57 minutes into the video. Charts and graphs powered by Market Movers. If you want your own access to charts and graphs, check out the link in the description down below for a discount code. Get 2 weeks free, get 20% off whatever plan you sign up with. Football first, just a couple quick things to hit on. I just wanted to pull the chart on Zach Wilson. It's just a funny one. PSA 10 Silver Prism, 60 days ago, it was a $120 card. Today, it is a $75 card. In between, it was a $300 card. I just thought this was an absolutely amazing graph. Talk about a shark fin. Dead flat, whoop, straight back down again, and now lower than what it was at because he has played like absolute crap. A lot of people made a decent amount of money in this little window right here. And this is a microcosm of when stuff like this happens, don't get cute. Imagine having Zach Wilson and going, you know what? No, I'm going to see how he looks one full week starting outside this hype period. Oops, off the cliff you go. Just another reminder of don't get cute in these situations. 9 times out of 10, probably 9.5 times out of 10, when an event happens to spike the price, most of the time you are better off selling. In the long run, if you did that every single time, you would come out ahead even above the ones that really go to the moon afterwards, because not that many go to the moon and actually stay there. Someone asked, I did that football video the other day about prices going down and up in the football market. Someone asked about Aaron Rodgers, so I figured let's check in on Aaron Rodgers because he has his injury, obviously. Over the last 30 days, which basically takes us right back to the beginning of the season, down about 30%. And you don't really see like a huge drop off on this where it just went over a cliff. Aaron Rodgers' career is, he may come back and play one more season, but his story is essentially written. We know what he is: multiple MVPs, Super Bowl rings, the whole 9 yards. So his stuff is, we talked about being baked in all the time. This turkey is, the thermometer is popped out the side yet. Mom's running around making sure the stuffing's ready and the mashed potatoes are done. They're keeping it in the oven covered, but maybe they've turned the heat off. We know what his story is. His stats are almost fully baked at this point, which limits, you're not going to see those huge cliff dives off on someone like this. Will it continue to trend down slowly? Probably, and eventually he'll floor out somewhere because he still does have a very popular collector base from all his Green Bay days, and he was a very good and very collectible quarterback. So no cliff-like dive for Aaron Rodgers prices. Patrick Mahomes. Just curious for a little check-in on him over the last 60 days, which takes us back to the National. Dead flat. PSA 10 Prism up 5%. PSA 9 Prism down 15% within the margins of error. He's come out, looked good. We got Swift Mania. I did not pull any Travis Kelce cards. Last I looked, I did glance at them earlier in the week. Maybe things have changed. They got like a 10% bump up with all the news, but nothing actionable. Mahomes, great start to the season. Chiefs look good this year from like a defensive side of things. Their defense actually looks legitimately very, very good. Their offense, wide receivers are all over the place, but it's Mahomes, so maybe he doesn't necessarily need good wide receivers anymore. That being said, Tyreek Hill has been an absolute monster this year. But Mahomes' price is basically staying perfectly steady. I kind of expect that to continue as long as nothing crazy happens one way or the other, and then we'll see what happens as we get later into the season. Let's switch over and talk baseball just very quickly, and then we will finish on basketball. Ronald Aun Jr., he had his 40-70 over the weekend. 40 home runs, 70 stolen bases. I remember when I was a kid, the 30-30, 40-40 club was a big deal. 40-40 club was like unheard of, and now we got Acuna going 40-70 on us. Curious about his prices. First Bowman Chrome Auto dating back to April 1st, so the very beginning of the season. About a 60% rise. I want PSA 10 and BGS 9.5 here because Bowman Autos, you actually see more traction on BGS 9.5s, especially during the 2016 era. And that is the case here. 48 BGS 9.5s are sold as opposed to 24 PSA 10s. Pretty decent margin difference there. $3K for the PSA 10 versus $2K for the BGS 9.5. But a nice, cool 60% increase over the season on Acuna's stuff, as he has had an absolutely tremendous year, has come a long way from when he tore his ACL. Just awesome player, awesome season, and we will see what they do in the postseason. Let's flip over, finish up with basketball, and then we will do our content creator league update at the very, very end for those that care. And if you don't, you'll give you an opportunity to sneak on out of the video. So, NBA world. season basically starts this week. I mean, not in reality, we don't have opening night or anything, but media days, most of the media days are Monday or Tuesday this week. There is a preseason game on Wednesday, and we are mere weeks away from the regular season starting in full swing. We had the massive trade with Lillard going to the Bucks, Jrue Holiday going to the Blazers along with DeAndre Ayton. Overall, general thoughts on the deal, then we'll talk about card prices. I don't love it for the Suns. I love it for the Blazers with a semi question mark next to that because I assume Jrue Holiday gets traded maybe before this video even goes live. I have to imagine that we are any minute going to get a Woj bomb on where Jrue Holiday is off to. So a lot of this is going to come down to what they get back in return for Jrue Holiday, which I think will be a decent haul. So you combine that with the draft pick capital that they got from the Bucks, basically controlling the Bucks draft from, what is it, like 2027, 2028, 29, and 30, or 27 through 29, whatever the 3 years are. One of them is we just straight get your pick and then 2 pick swaps. That's a really long time from now. Even if Giannis stays with the team, that's a long time from now. A lot can happen in the NBA in a 4-year period. I mean, just go back 4 years ago from this and think about what was going on in the NBA and how much the landscape has shifted to today. And now, try to project out going forward from here. So I like what the Trailblazers did. I actually do think I like this deal than some of the rumored Miami ones that were floating around out there. I would much rather have Jrue Holiday as an asset to flip than Tyler Hero. And quite frankly, I would much rather control the Bucks draft in the late 2020s than the Heat's draft, just being quite honest with you. So even if it was like one less true pick and an extra pick swap, I'm fine with that. And then, like I said, we'll see what Portland gets from the Jrue Holiday flip. For the Bucks, I get it. I don't know. Like, they're a better team today. Yes, they're going to be a blast to watch offensively. They definitely hurt themselves defensively a little bit. This is definitely a short-term maneuver, as Dame is not exactly a spring chicken. I still don't think, and Milwaukee people don't hate me on this one, I'm still not 100% sure this keeps Giannis in Milwaukee long-term. We'll see. I believe he's eligible for his extension now. He's already said he's not signing that. And then he has this year and next year with the team. I would imagine this will be a wait and see for him. I wouldn't be surprised if he does not sign his extension in the offseason and goes into the following season as a free agency year, even with the Dame trade. They have completely gutted their franchise for this deal. They have no first round picks, I think, left that they don't have full control over between now and like 2031 or something crazy. So they don't have a lot of ways to improve the team going forward. Dame is not getting any younger, and that contract is wild on the back end. So I think this is, hey, Giannis, you give us a good 2 years here. We're going to do our thing. And then if you want to blow out of here, we got it. But I think this is Milwaukee's last-ditch effort to try to get 1 or 2 more rings before the writing's on the wall, because Giannis staying past that is basically him saying, I never want to win a championship again. And once again, a lot can happen in the NBA, but you project things out. Brook Lopez is old. Chris Middleton is old. Giannis will still be in his prime. Dame's going to be 34, 35, making like $70 million a year. And they have 0 ways to improve the team with no draft pick capital. So from a continuing to be competitive, win NBA championships, that just is a bleak picture, and I don't know if I see Giannis hanging around for that. I could be wrong. We'll find out. Regardless, they are going to be a blast to watch for the next year or two at minimum. We'll see what happens. They are probably my favorite in the East as of the moment, with Boston right behind them. And we'll see how this Jrue Holiday thing filters out, where he ends up, because that could swing things slightly again. But in the East, I do believe it's the Bucks 1 by a decent margin, and then I would put the Celtics number 2 at the time being. A lot of stuff still in flux. Do we see a James Harden trade? Do we not? Where does Jrue Holiday go? Still a lot of things shuffling around out there. Card price wise, Damian Lillard did see a little bit of a bump up, but it's almost just kind of back to where it got. So you can see Dame's off-season prices. I blew this back all the way to April 1st, so we're getting some in-season stuff from the tail end of last year. I went with just his base prism here because, quite frankly, like his silver pop count is next to nothing. And they just like 2 have sold this entire year. So it's no way to see movement on it. This card kind of flattened out over the summer, early summer into the mid-season. We get to July and you see this spike. This, my theory here is with all the Miami rumors. When it looked like he was going to the Heat for sure, his prices spiked. As it dragged on, they renormalized again. Now, it was at a higher floor than what it was previously, but they kind of floored out here again. And then they actually went back down a little bit recently as we got closer and closer to the season. And now we see the Bucks trade has kind of taken things back off, but it basically put it right back to where it was on the spec of the Heat trade. So the speculation of the trade spiked prices as much as the trade itself. Now, we're still early in here. We're only a day past the trade, or 2 days past the trade. We'll see where things go from here price-wise, so we're still a little early. And you can see the PSA 9 did basically the same thing. I pulled both grades up here. So net result is, over the last 6 months, he's up about 40 to 50%. Depending on when you kind of moved in and out of this card, it did do some weird stuff with the fluctuations. But once again, just the potential of the deal spiked it as much as an actual trade did. And I actually think he has a better shot to win a title with the Bucks than he does with the Heat, to be quite frank. If you just kind of mirror those two deals, if he would have went to the Heat instead, I think his chances on the Bucks team are actually better for a ring. On the Giannis side, no change in price, at least in the short term. Little bump up, and then kind of trending back down again. Once again, we'll need to kind of check in on these next week to see what happened. Over the same time frame, though, 6 months going back to April, Giannis is down about 20% on his PSA 10 prism. PSA 9 is flat at about down 5%. Now, remember, this is going back into the end of the season, so it has the trials and tribulations of the playoffs, them losing the whole 9 yards. If I shorten this thing up a little bit, it doesn't look quite as bleak. And the 9 is actually up a little bit. The PSA 10 is flat over the last 30 days. So we will see where things go from here, but I don't know if Giannis is going to see a huge bump. There's a lot baked into those prices already, and he is already fairly well established with his, MVPs, Defensive Player of the Years, and already has a ring. So it takes a little bit more than that to bump up his prices. So we'll see where things go. I'm excited for the NBA season to get underway. If you don't care about the Content Creator League, that is all I have for you, boys and girls. We will catch you on the next one. Peace. If you do, we'll talk about that very quickly just to give you guys and girls a little update. I dropped 2-1. I ended up losing to Dustin's squad. It was a sad day in the streets here. Unfortunately, as someone mentioned in the comments a couple days after the video, Dustin had Raheem Mostert last week, and he scored 50 fantasy points. And even as bad as his team was, when a running back throws up a 50 burger on you, good chance you are going to lose. That game ended up coming down to the wire. I had Puka Nacua. He had Matt Stafford on Monday Night Football. Puka Nacua, Matt Stafford underthrows him at like the 2-yard line. He catches the ball, has to fall down to catch it because the ball was underthrown. He gets tackled at the 2 instead of crossing the line for a touchdown. If he does, I win. He did not, so I lost. And that was with the Mostert 50 burger on top. This week, I play Jay. I am not super familiar with Jay, so I will not trash talk him. And he's also 3-0. Pretty good team Jay has running out there. I've already had Amon St. Brown in the books at just under 17 points for the week. Once again, this week I am running out Josh Allen, Bijan Robinson, Isaiah Pacheco, Amon St. Brown, Deebo Samuel. He's got a questionable tag, so that could switch to Nico Collins. Donald Parham is a recent pickup because David Njoku burned himself and might not play on Sunday. Browns defense, Puka Nacua in the flex slot, and Justin Tucker. Jay, very solid squad here. Jalen Hurts, Christian McCaffrey, Alexander Madison, Keenan Allen, who will get an increased role now with Mike Williams out. Tyler Lockett, Pat Freiermuth, DeAndre Swift, Cowboys defense, and Dallas kicker. So good team here out of Jay. What is the actual projection? Jay is favored to win at the moment by about 10. So we will see what happens with that. Jay's team is pretty legit. So I will need a little bit of finagling to come out of this one with a W. I like my team quite a bit. I have Christian Watson on the bench. I didn't want to risk starting him first game back. They were talking about limited snap counts, and this is a full PPR league. I also have Cortland Sutton, Nico Collins, Roschon Johnson as a stash, and Gus Edwards is kind of a stash, plug and play. Quarterback, wide receivers, I'm absolutely loaded. The second running back spot has been kind of vexing me most of the year. It was J.K. Dobbins, and then obviously he got hurt, so that kind of hurt me a little bit. That's why I have Gus Edwards on the squad. I would love to improve that second running back slot if I could, but I really like my wide receiver depth, given that this is a full PPR league. So I'll let those guys and Josh Allen and Bijan carry the workload for me on this squad. But that is all I have for you, boys and girls. We will catch you on the next one. Peace.